Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the community meeting. My name is Aaron Revelo. I'm with the department with CIFTs. We'll be starting the meeting shortly. Just so you know, there are no AI bots allowed in this meeting. And to start off the meeting, I'm going to read a notice to the paid representatives. If you are compensated to monitor, attend, or speak at this meeting, city law may require you to register as a lobbyist and report your activity. See Los Angeles Municipal Code 4801 et sec. More information is available at ethics.lacity.org/lobbying. For assistance, please contact the Ethics Commission at 213-978-1960 or ethics.commission@lacity.org.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Lauro Cons, also with the Community Investment for Families Department, and I'll be going over some other housekeeping items. I'll also read the same message that Aaron just read in Spanish. Aviso para representantes pagados. Si recibe compensación por monitorear, asistir o hablar en esta reunión, la ley de la ciudad puede exigirle que se registre como cabidero o cabidera, lobbyist, e informe su actividad. Por favor de referirse al Los Angeles Municipal Code, sección 48.01 et sec. Más información está disponible en ethics.lacity.org lobby. Para asistencia, contacte a la Comisión de Ética al número 213-978-1960 o ethics.commission@lacity.org. I'd also like to share that there are closed captioning and Spanish translation options. You can find both options in your Zoom menu towards the bottom if you're on a computer. If it's not immediately at the bottom of your Zoom menu, you can click on the icon that says more with the 3 dots. And for closed captioning, it's the icon with the box and CC. And for interpretation in Spanish, you can click on the globe that says interpretation. Si alguien necesita traducción en español, por favor haga un clic en el globo que está en el menú de Zoom abajo. Si no ve el símbolo del globo, haga un clic en la palabra que tiene 3 puntos. En inglés es more. Hay un menú con una opción de interpretación. Nos gustaría repetir, si alguien quiere oír en español, por favor haga un clic en el globo debajo. Si no ve el símbolo del globo, haga un clic en la palabra que tiene 3 puntos. En inglés es more, M-O-R-E, y hay un menú con la opción de interpretación. Voy a dar un momento para que personas puedan seleccionar esas opciones. I'll just give a moment for folks to find the closed captioning options as well as the Spanish interpretation options. So we are happy to have folks joining our community meeting. We will share links to CIFD's mailing list as well as social media pages in the chat where you can register to receive through email notifications about the different activities as well as updates for the Community Investment for Families Department. And you can receive similar messages and notices through our social media pages. And again, those options to register will be found through links in the chat. I'd also like to share that there will be a question and answer session after the presentation that we will have. For any questions that you have, you may put them anytime in the chat, but please ensure that when you input your questions in the chat, that it is directed towards the group instead of individuals. I now like to start our presentation by introducing Brenda Shockley, Deputy Mayor and Chief Equity Officer from the Mayor's Office of Economic Opportunity. Thank you.
That moment, 1 second. What did I do? I'm sorry.
You're good, Brenda. We can hear you.
Am I good? Okay, thank you. I've started looking for the button, trying to figure it all out. On behalf of Mayor Beth, I really, I want to thank all of you for coming at a time when we as a city are facing just an unimaginable challenge. And the work that is done by CIFD, the providers, the partners, is more critical than ever. Critical to provide information, critical to provide support, critical to identify resources, and most critically, to provide a sense of hope, a sense that we as a community will get through these times. And it's in that spirit that I really am proud. And I thank you for the opportunity to highlight the priorities of the mayor's proposed program year 51 for the consolidated plan, because we know there will be a morning, and we want to make sure that we do everything to identify and share resources, allocate resources in the manner that not only does the legislation require, but also that reflects serving those with the greatest need. With funding allocated through 4 entitlement grants from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, the city's consolidated plan is an integrated approach to planning and implementing the city's housing, community development, and economic development priorities. In total, the proposed consolidated plan allocates approximately $122 million. The consolidated plan continues to fund vital programs such as the Family Source Centers, Business Source Centers, domestic violence, and human trafficking shelter operations, as well as aging services delivery. These programs serve thousands of Angelenos across the city, connecting them with vital resources and services. Given the significant need in our communities, the mayor has increased the Family Source Center's allocation by $1 million. This targeted augmentation leverages the recent lifting of the public services cap, allowing the city to address heightened services demand and ensure continuity in essential legal support for our most vulnerable residents. This is a week later. This is what I was saying a week ago when we were reflecting on the fires. In the course of this week, it's even more important that we make sure that people know their rights, that they have the necessary legal support, and that they are able to live in this city without fear. The mayor's proposed consolidated plan also continues to fund a variety of economic development projects, ranging from the sidewalk vending cart program to the LA Green Tech Incubator. In addition, housing and homelessness prevention continue to be a priority throughout the city. The Housing Acquisition and Preservation Fund is designed to make strategic investments in affordable housing to keep residents off the street. It's so important to have this community meeting, not just because it's required, but because input from the community ensures that we are as responsive as possible. So please, even with the backdrop of what we're living now, look to the future, give us input, and thank you for attending and for your consideration. Thank you. And I hand it over to Veronica. Oh no, to Rebecca. That's right. It's been a long week. Good to see you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Shockley, and thank you everybody who's taken the time this evening to join us to share some information with you, but more so to share some space so that you can communicate with us what your concerns might be, what are you thinking with what's going on recently, and with what Deputy Mayor Shockley has referenced that we're all living through as Angelinos. So I can't emphasize enough the importance of Deputy Mayor Shockley's words and the importance of this process here, this meeting that we're holding for you. I do want to make mention that unlike the previous meeting of last week, we do have a 2-for-1, so to speak here. We do have colleagues in our program operations division that will also be sharing some information for you from a sister program that we also run in the department, the Community Services Block Grant. So you've got a wealth of information that we're planning to share with you and space for us to solicit your feedback and your thoughts on this process. So to that end, I do want to go to this slide and really quickly just walk you through a map of what we're going to talk about as it relates to the consolidated plan. I will give you some remarks and a little bit of a background in terms of what the comp plan is, or the consolidated plan as we reference it. We will also go over how the consolidated plan is formed. To Deputy Mayor Shockley's comments, we are also going to give you some highlights on what the Mayor's Program Year 51 has proposed. We'll leave some space at the top there for some questions and answers. And then we'll go into remarks, as I mentioned, for our community action plan, the 26-27 presentation. At the end of all that, we will also give you closing remarks and hope to have that healthy exchange of information. I do want to go ahead and remind folks, as my colleague Lauro did at the top, please share your comments or your questions in the chat. That'll help us get through the information that we hope to share with you. And we'll do our best to take the questions and answer them in real time. And if there's any opportunity for us to go back and do some research, we will do that. And the promise is to get you an answer to those questions. So with that, we will go on to the next slide, please. And actually, let me make a quick point. I think Deputy Mayor Shockley introduced me, but let me just let you all know my name is Rebecca Ronquillo, and I am the director for the Consolidated Planning Division with the Community Investment for Families Department. And the folks behind the scene, my team, is who's helping run this meeting, collecting information, and helping us advance through the slides. So thank you in advance to my team. Next slide.
Slides up.
Thank you so much. Actually, are we on the previous slide to this? Thank you. So again, I mentioned the consolidated plan, or the comp plan. And this comp plan is how the city of Los Angeles uses the allocation from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. This consolidation of 4 formula grants is intended to support housing and community needs for people with low to moderate income. HUD allocates this money to the city. The city is a grantee, and therefrom the mayor and council decide on how to use it. The Community Investment for Families Department drafts the plan and submits the plan to HUD for their review and approval. This is, for the most part, a 9 to 12-month process. We are now at month 9 or 10 of a 12-month process where we come back to you and we provide to you the feedback after a process of soliciting ideas for funding, getting your public feedback on what those high-level needs are and what you want us to emphasize and consider in investing. And we have ongoing conversations as a department, as a CIFD. We touch base and we reach out to the various the council district office staff. We have an ongoing conversation with our colleagues, such as the Deputy Mayor Shockley with the mayor's office. And that's a conversation that's going on consistently and throughout the year, so that there is that agreement at the end of all of that in terms of communicating with the public on what these grant funds are supposed to be accomplishing, and tailoring and customizing those funds to meet the specific needs of Los Angeles. So there's the background there in terms of how all of that works with respect to a process. As I alluded to, there are 4 grants in the plan, in this consolidated plan, and that's specifically why it's called consolidated. but it makes sure that this comp plan and as a department, we ensure that the city is compliant with federal rules, that we gather the required input through meetings like this, through interfaces on phone calls, emails, etc. And just to be very, very transparent, the money goes to groups to groups across the city, our sister departments and nonprofits, to provide housing, services, and neighborhood improvements. Next slide, please. One quick note on what these 4 grants do not touch on, but that we recognize and fully understand are as equally important to the public. There are other grants and other processes that touch on this, but from time to time, we do get feedback and comments on your priorities as a community and how these funds may be used. And we understand, for example, that public transportation, police services, schools, education, they're critical to our daily life in our communities across the 15 council districts. But for the purposes of these federal funds in this consolidated plan, those particular services aren't the target of these formula grants. The grants we're discussing today are focused on housing, economic development, as the deputy mayor has alluded to, neighborhood improvements, public services such as the FSCs that again our deputy mayor elevated, and those programs that are related to poverty reduction and homelessness. So as I've been mentioning a couple of times now, the comp plan is inclusive of 4 separate federal grants. We've got the Community Development Block Grant, known colloquially as CDBG, and it is the largest and the longest running, as well as the most flexible of the 4 formula grants. It could support a wide range of programs that serve low to moderate income residents. And just a quick sort of trivia note, if you will, about CDBG. We do, at the top we reference the program year 51 action plan. That's what's being under consideration right now. And the 51 very specifically refers to us looking at the 51st year of this program. So it has a long tail of experience, a long tail of history, and a very deep and broad impact as far as our fellow Angelenos that have been benefited ahead of us, behind us, and currently. So it is a long-standing and a long revered program that has impacted so many Angelenos across the decades. And we're very proud to be the department and a city that has invested in innovative efforts to reduce poverty, innovative cutting-edge efforts to increase affordable housing, to preserve affordable housing, to augment economic development, and so on and so forth. So we're very proud of that history as a city. The Home Investment Partnerships Program, otherwise known as HOME, focuses specifically on expanding affordable housing. It's primarily used to help build or improve housing in specific for low-income individuals, and housing that families can afford in the city. The Emergency Solutions Grant, or the ESG grant, is used to support people, our fellow Angelenos that are experiencing homelessness or maybe at risk of falling into homelessness. And it helps fund things like interim shelters, outreach, and prevention programs to help our neighbors prevent falling into homelessness. And lastly, the 4th grant that is included in the comp plan is the Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS program, or the HOPWA program. This countywide program provides housing and supportive services to people and the families that surround them that have the HIV or full-blown AIDS diagnosis. Those individuals do have this program to rely on that serves, again, not just the city, but it is a countywide program. And so in combination, these 4 grants form the foundation of the comp plan. Next slide, please. It's important to note that each block grant has its own set of federal rules about how and who can receive assistance through the block grant. The rules are typically based on factors like income, housing status, and in some cases, health conditions or diagnoses. Programs funded by these grants must follow HUD's eligibility guidelines to ensure funds are used properly and reach the people most in need. And what you'll have here, and you can read at your pace and leisure, are the various highlights on what the individual block grants do fund in particular. And as I mentioned, you have the CDBG block grant that does have a pretty extensive and flexible use of funds, but not without strings. So that's very important to note. We do have a wide range of eligible activities, but it is coupled with a wide range of qualifying or eligibility factors. Same thing with the Home Investment Partnerships Grant, ESG, and HAPWA. It is important to note that they all have their own set of federal rules and regulations that the city takes pains year in and year out to stay in compliance with. Next slide, please. So in terms of the process, just a couple of highlights here in terms of that progression across from left to right, and how it is that we come to the point of presenting what the plan ultimately looks like. Some of you may have come to us or joined us in the fall, where we talk more generally about the comp plan, and we ask you to communicate to us what your priorities are, what you see as your neighborhood needs, and we do solicit community input in the fall, again, to help inform and help our decision makers through the mayor's office that kicks off the process in the fall. And as we develop and fine tune the plan, we come to the community again in the spring to communicate how your comments may have informed the ultimate plan that gets discussed and decided on. To that end, we do planning, which is helped by having conversations across our service providers, checking in with what works, what needs augmentation, what emerging needs might be, etc. And so we have those ongoing conversations so that the plan and the planning process does try to reflect the needs. I will say, and it may, it may be obvious, but there is obviously a need out there across all 4 grants that far outstrip the resources. So the planning and the solicitation of applications becomes that much more critical in terms of making sure that not only are we working within our means, but that we elevate those highest and most impactful priorities so that we can make the best use of our consolidated plan resources. And finally, once we've worked with departments, we've worked with nonprofits and folks out on the field, we develop a plan which incorporates and considers applications for funding. We vet them and we qualify them based on HUD guidelines, not only in terms of eligibility, but we do also have an opportunity to comment on projects that are ready to spend, that are ready to use funds, along with finding investment opportunities for the various block grants. It is our responsibility as a grantee to make sure that the funds are not only allocated, but that they're spent in quick fashion. It's never our intent to sit on funds or to fund projects that are not ready to go. It's a huge responsibility for us to get the funds out there on the street and to have our families and to have our Angelenos benefit from these critical resources. So after it's all said and done, we come to an agreement on a final action plan. It's approved by council. It's attested to by the mayor. We fine tune, we finalize the plan, and we submit it to HUD for their review and approval. Our program year starts on July 1 and it ends the ensuing year on June 30th. And so that's the cycle that we follow. Next slide, please. We are on year 3 of a 5-year consolidated plan. And what that means is that we've taken some time a couple of years ago to talk as a city, to have a citywide discussion on what the city is going to prioritize over the ensuing 5 years in terms of accomplishing impactful gains across the 4 consolidated plan resources. And to that end, we take some time to identify our overarching goals, our North Stars, if you will, in terms of how year in and year out we do communicate with the public, we communicate internally with our departments, and we communicate to HUD on an ongoing basis on an annualized fashion how it is that we intend to use the annual consolidated plan formula grants to achieve 5-year goals. So it's important to keep that in mind. We do communicate what it is our intent is to achieve in the 5 years, but we annualize and we take that annual pulse of where we are on those goals and we adjust as necessary. So to that end, I do want to highlight what the 5 goals that have been our guiding light for these 5 years. Again, we're looking at year 3 of the 5-year comp plan. And at the top is our goal, which is to prevent and to reduce homelessness. The second is to create and preserve affordable housing. And these all work hand in hand as well. The third goal is to reduce poverty. The fourth goal is to support and enhance the local economy. And the fifth goal is to stabilize neighborhoods. And again, that's by improving public spaces, parks, streets, community facilities, etc. So we use these and we communicate our success in achieving these goals on a regular basis with various stakeholders, including yourselves, including our decision makers, our elected decision makers, and our funder, the Housing and Urban Development Department. Next slide, please. And what you'll see here is a rough breakdown of what those 4 formula grants can be viewed as in terms of their aggregate investment. Public services comes in at roughly $16 million. The city, the mayor's budget does allocate approximately $14 million in the furtherance of economic development. That high ticket item, that $67 million, is to fund housing and related programs. And again, as a note, this is across the 4 consolidated plan resources. And those final 2 for public facilities, you have that investment of about $10 million. And then lastly, you have that investment of about $15 million for planning and admin. A quick note on planning and admin, that is an allocation specific to the CDBG grant that's capped at 20%. So, another way of thinking about that is that you have that minimal 20% of the allocation that supports 100% of that grant. And you have folks that are running this meeting that answer the phone, that answer questions about these programs that are paid for with this 20% cap. Next slide, please. Public services as well. This is also a capped allocation for the community development block grant. The federal government does not allow us in typical fashion to fund more than 15%, 15% of the available resources in a given year to fund public services like the service delivery systems that you see on your screen here. You see the aging services delivery system, or the multi-purpose centers, as some people know them. The domestic violence and human trafficking shelter operations, family source centers are funded year in and year out through the 15% capped public services allowance. What is important to note here is that you have this added hospitality training academy. This year in particular, the federal government did provide a flexibility and a waiver of the 15% cap, in particular response to the wildfires. There was a presidential declaration, and part of that declaration allowed for us to exercise these waivers and these flexibilities on what is otherwise a hard restriction on the use of CDBG. So that's allowed for us to think of this particular PY51 comp plan in a slightly more expansive way, especially as it relates to public services and what we could do as a city to address those immediate needs after and in the aftermath of the fire, rather. Let's see. Next slide, please. Thank you. In terms of housing and related programs, we fund, and this is also an ongoing year in and year out investment priority. It's funding the affordable housing managed pipeline, including resources that help fund folks that underwrite these projects, that help monitor and manage these projects. We do, for the most part, invest our HAPO allocation across the various service providers for those services that help folks with HIV and the AIDS diagnosis to stay stably housed. As Deputy Mayor Shockley indicated, there is a new line item in the proposed budget, and that's the interim housing acquisition and preservation line item. That's an exciting line item that's going to help add a tool in the toolbox to increase interim housing capacity as well as preserve affordable housing across the city. And what's been a very popular and a very dear project for many years has been the Handy Worker program. We've continued the ongoing investment there, as well as the urgent repair program. With respect to the economic development efforts through the consolidated plan, and in particular the community development block grant, you do have notable investments here as proposed, with a couple of the incubator programs, but also systems that we've seen year in and year out as healthy investments in terms of the neighborhood market system, healthy neighborhood markets, the LA Business Source Center, which is a citywide system also that helps small businesses by providing technical assistance in general. And you do have the sidewalk vending cart program that the deputy mayor referenced, etc. So these are just some highlights with respect to what the investment priorities are proposed for. Next slide, please. Neighborhood improvements and public facilities, in terms of investments with CDBG, you see some the investment profile here, but it includes ongoing programs like our code enforcement program, the PACE program, that has also been a longstanding program that does help maintain that compliant building code adherence across different neighborhoods in the city. It helps ensure a safe and a livable neighborhood community by addressing code violations in a systematic way. We do have also, as a quick highlight, the TARP and the CARE program. Again, those we work with our city attorney partners to help proactively identify violations that we can address on a proactive basis so that the quality of life in our neighborhoods is maintained. And you'll see here a couple of other highlighted investments such as the Slauson Wall Green Space Project, etc. Next slide. Really quickly on admin and planning, I mentioned a couple of remarks on it a few slides ago, but this allowed use of the CDBG block grant and other block grants to allow for some admin and planning on a limited basis. It's important to note that it does take people power to help not only prepare and solicit ideas for annual action plans, so those plans for investment, but this allocation and what this carve out of money helps pay for is to also address on an ongoing basis the reporting of accomplishments, our performance in relation to how we're spending the money. It helps us respond to monitorings, etc. It helps us prepare the plan, post it, run meetings like this. So it's an important allocation and important allowance in terms of funding people that help us ensure that we're in line to get our allocation year in and year out, and to not run into any audit concerns or our audit danger with respect to the allocations that we get, and that we keep spending in an eligible manner and in a quick fashion. Next slide. Some resources here before we take a little bit of a break for comments and questions. Oftentimes, we can answer some of the questions that you have, but more often than not, there are specific questions that are specific to the departments that we work alongside with. So where we can't answer a question or we want to give you that appropriate referral, these are our partners across the city that we often work with to get you an answer to your question, whether it be on direct service provision or how a program is designed, program process, etc. So we've provided this here as a quick stop so that you can get a sense of what other resources exist that help us provide information to you on an ongoing basis. Next slide. So we do want to spend a little bit of time, maybe a 5 minutes or so, taking any questions or comments from you at this point. And then we will invite you and plug our website and our ongoing survey. And then maybe in the next 5 minutes, I'll kick it off to our partners in the program operations division so that they could go through their particular set of information. So at this point, I do want to see if there are any questions that we can address or otherwise note. Let's see.
We do have a question of, will the video of this meeting be posted online following this presentation? And if so, where? We will be working on posting a copy of the video to our website. We will need a few with our IT staff to get that together. Kevin, can you please put the link in the chat, please? Thank you so much. So please keep checking that link there in the days to come, and you should be able to see a copy fairly soon.
Thank you, Madeline. I do see a hand raised, but if possible, can you please include your comment or your question in the chat? We also download, it's important to note that we download questions and chats because we take that feedback and we do aggregate it and communicate that to the public through our council file process. We are required to memorialize comments and questions. We do aggregate that information and communicate back through report form on what that feedback is. So I do see a hand up, but if I can ask the hand up, Mr. Gregory Robinson, to include your comment or your question in the chat box, please. You don't have to do that now. You could do that throughout the course of the rest of the meeting as well. You're not limited to this space, but if there are any other questions or comments that anybody would like to put in the chat, I'll take another minute or two to field those. Otherwise, we can advance to the next slide. Can you please list the allocation table for the various funding areas? Thank you for your question, Mr. Robinson. This is a good question. I think what I would do at this point is I can direct you to the council file that includes the mayor's proposed budget allocation, and that, we can walk you through how to read that document. And that way you can peruse and review that breakdown in terms of investment proposal. So yes, we can definitely provide that to you. What we have addressed in the previous meeting is to ask you to email us at our planning email. And this is a good segue to our next slide, Mr. Robinson. We will ask you to take a sort of two-step process and to email us at this planning email. And what that does is two things. This is a way for you, for us to ensure your anonymity and your privacy through this public meeting. It is being recorded. And if you have a sensitivity around your email being displayed in this video, we do invite you and encourage you to email us at that CIFD planning email. Provide that request, and we can email you back that council file, and we can set aside some time to walk you through how to read that document. That's my recommendation to you, and that's what I'm asking you to do. You can also call me directly at the 323-500-8642 number. That is my direct number, and I do answer that. I do answer that call. I do respond back to those voicemails. Email is the best way to get a hold of us, I will say. And then, just in terms of what you see on your screen here too, we are actually presently soliciting responses to a survey that we're taking that also goes towards communicating feedback to our decision makers locally and to the Housing and Urban Development Department. So we do ask you to go ahead and take go ahead and hover over this or show your phone so that you can have access to that survey. Complete it for us, please, and we'll take your feedback and incorporate it into our report back. And we do also invite you to go to our website to look at the various resources of information. As we asked at the top of our presentation, go ahead and subscribe to the various mail lists so that you can stay on top of what it is that we're doing as a department. Let's see. I will end with this question. Is there a copy of the draft plan that we can access that shows the specific amounts? Yes, sir, we can definitely do that. And again, I'll ask you to email us that question so we can respond to you directly there. And with that, if we can go to the next slide. And I'll kick it over to my colleague, Jackie Rodriguez. She is our Director of Program Operations for the Community Investment for Families Department. And I'm excited and proud to hand it over to her at this time so that she can walk you through information specific to the Community Action Plan.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Rebecca, for the introduction. So the Community Action Plan, Rebecca just went over what is sometimes referred to as like brick and mortar. This program is more for services. So this is a specific grant that we have. We can go on to the next slide. This is funded with CSBG, and the city loves their acronyms. So it's the Community Services Block Grant. Very similar to CDBG, which is what Rebecca was talking about, which is the Development Block Grant. But this is at a state level. It is just for services. So previously you could do some community enhancements, etc. This grant is just to provide services. It is a federal grant that we administer here at the city. It's part of our anti-poverty system and program. We can go to the next slide. Our CSBG dollars are overseen by a community action board. They provide the recommendations for the development, planning, implementation, and so forth of CSBG funding. These programs are to serve people who are living at the poverty line or at 200% of poverty. Currently, what the CSBG funds provide Family Source Center services. And we're going to go on to the next slide. In order to provide these services every 2 years biannually, we put together a community needs assessment and a community action plan. What this plan includes are our local priorities. It informs how our agency will deliver the CSBG services, what support activities we are going to do to increase capacity for low-income families to become self-sufficient. This is a copy of our plan. We will link it. And there's a link to it on our website as well, which will provide the address in the chat. Next slide. So part of this plan, we go through a series of survey data collection. We do contract with California State University Northridge, CSUN, to provide customer satisfaction survey. Currently, we've CSUN surveyed over 1,100 individuals to ask them about customer satisfaction. How happy are you with your services? How useful were your services? Were there any services that were needed that you were not able to receive, etc.? Then they compile that data and provide us with a customer satisfaction score. In addition to that, we also have our community needs assessment surveys and also our quantitative research, which consists of a whole amount of different data sources. I'm going to go through some of our maps that we compiled to kind of explain how they're used and what they are and how we're used. Next slide. So the customer satisfaction survey, as I mentioned before, we had 1,100 surveys. They assess program performance, evaluate the impact, provide recommendations from stakeholders. What other services would you like to see? What services were very useful? What services were not useful? Overall, out of a 5-point scale, when we do customer satisfaction, I will, let me take a step back. We not only provide that customer satisfaction survey to our current clients, our current customers who are receiving the services, we also provide it to our directors with the satisfaction, to gauge the satisfaction in program administration, and also how the directors and staff at each of our Family Source Centers perceive the effectiveness of the Family Source Center system in serving low-income services. I'm happy to say that based on a 5-point scale, our lowest score was 4 points, which is still relatively high when you do a customer satisfaction, and our highest was 4.7. Next slide. Next, we're going to go on to our community needs assessment survey. Next slide. So part of our community needs assessment, we asked questions on a survey that was sent out to our listserv and people that we serve. What funding category is more important to you? And we asked them to select one. It went from public services all the way down as shown in the screen. 35% of those surveyed indicated that public services were of most importance to them. And that's what we're dealing with the CSBG dollars, is public services as defined by the grantors. Next slide. We also asked them to select like the biggest needs over the last 12 months. Preserving housing was one of the highest. Out of the three, it was preserving safe and affordable housing, public services, and affordable housing construction. Most of these are dealing with housing, making sure people stay housed and do not fall into homelessness, but also making sure that they have the necessary safety net services to ensure that they are able to sustain their rental assistance or their rents, rental cost, school cost, work cost, everything else. Next slide. We also asked to select the biggest need over the past 12 months. The top 3 services selected were reducing utility cost, increasing the income of their actual household, and help with accessing public services. We know that most of our public services like CalFresh, Medi-Cal, etc., are underutilized. We also have a high cost of utilities, and there's programs out there that can help you pay for those utilities, whether it's LEDWP, Southern California Edison, or telephone services as well. Next slide. Next, we're going to go on to our community needs assessment maps. So what we did for these maps is we ranked different indexes. On the left, which I commonly refer to as the brown map, we have areas of need. We overlaid poverty data, rent burden data, access to healthcare, and the Cal environmental screening data sets. We overlaid them, and the darker areas show the areas of need. What we were trying to do is, in the city of Los Angeles, where are our areas of need? We know we have need throughout the city. However, there are some areas, as you can clearly see, that are darker and more in need they have more need for services than other areas. That doesn't mean that one area needs no services. It just means that the concentration of need is in certain areas. In addition to that, we also looked at the controller's LA Equity Index. This is commonly referred to as the pink map. On the pink map, you kind of oversee what is the different data sources, what is the need, what are the areas of need. If I was to magically be able to overlay both of these maps, they're almost identical in the same areas. You can tell that Council District 9, some of 14, some of 8, and some of 10 are the highest need areas. If you look on either the brown map or the pink map, they're both the same areas of high need. Next slide. So when we do our community action plan, not only do we look at what services are needed, what are the areas that are in need, we put all of that together in one plan, and we tell the state, based on the community needs assessment that we performed, these are the areas most in need. These are the services that most are in need for our particular area, and this is how we're going to spend or allocate our CSBG funds. I'm going to go for public comment, but I did see that in the chat they did post a copy of the community action plan. The way the plan is, we didn't design it. It's something that it's a template that the state gives us. It's question and answer, so it's kind of on a table. So they have the question, and then we'll have provide a area for an answer, and then we go on and so on and so forth. Most of it kind of goes through some of the things that I covered, the needs assessment, how we're providing services, what services are most in need, etc. So I'm going to pause for any questions that you may have.
At this time, I would like to remind everybody to make use of the chat function for your questions. Thank you.
If at this point you can't think of any questions, or you would like to look at the plan, we go on to the next slide. There is a way of still making public comment at cifd.info@lacity.org. If you email us any input that you provide, any questions that you might have, we will provide a response to it. We will also include those comments in our plan. In addition, if you want to visit or see our plan, you can go to la4families.org, and it is on the first webpage that you see. You will see Community Action Plan. You would click there and you will have access to the plan. So we're here to answer any questions. If not, I'll turn it back over to Rebecca.
Yeah, we can stay on the line a little while longer, or we can give you your time back as well. This isn't the last and only opportunity for you to provide feedback to what Jackie has mentioned. You can sit on some of this information and provide feedback in the next couple of days to us through those various means of communication. We're here to receive them all. That's an opportunity for you as well. And with that, just another final thank you for taking time out in your busy day and in the evening, more so, to join us so that we can share some of this information with you, so that we're able to move forward in our responsibilities as grant administrators in this important part of the process, which is getting your feedback on how it is that we're managing and stewarding these funds. You are very welcome, Ms. Weiss, for the information that we've shared with you. Please take it, share it with your loved ones, with your colleagues, etc. We do thank you for joining us this evening. So we'll stay on just a few minutes longer, and then at the end of that, we'll go ahead and close our meeting. So speak now or come back to us virtually with your comments. Thank you so much.
We have several thank yous coming in through the chat and a comment that the support for small businesses really does make a difference. Thank you.
So at this time, I'll go ahead and ask,
Oh, we have one more coming in.
Right.
Thank you for your info. I am the Vice Chair of the City of Alhambra Housing and Community Development City Advisory Committee, and I find the items that you are funding with your CDBG and home grant funds is useful for us to consider for our city.
Thank you for that comment, Mr. McCammon. Anytime we can be a source of information or feedback to our sister grantees, our brother grantees across the region, we welcome that opportunity. Please know that we're a resource to you, and you can reach out to us at any time for any of that feedback. Thank you so much for your comment. So at this time, we'll go ahead and close our meeting formally. Looks like we're tapering off here, and folks that have held on, thank you so much. Do feel free to exit the meeting now. We are formally closing. And as we see those folks go ahead and log off, we thank you one last time. Thank you for taking the time with us. And team, thank you so much for staying on the line and supporting this meeting.
I do see one final comment in, Rebecca. What
I
is
do.
the schedule of the 52nd 2027 through 2028 proposed comp plan?
Sure. So this time, so next fall, so the fall of 2026 is when we will start soliciting feedback and potential requests for funding for neighborhood improvement projects, looking ahead to that 52nd program year. So July 1 starts the 51st program year, and then the following July thereafter starts 52. So we'll start reaching out to folks and soliciting feedback in the fall of this year, later on this year. Okay, you got that last comment in, Mr. Robinson. Thank you so much for that. If there's anything else in addition to that that you or anybody else on this call needs help on, please feel free to email us and to use that phone number to call. We will get back to you. Thank you so much.